there in the internet land. This is Julian Chambliss here from Michigan State University in my office, doing a little research, prepping for class. And I thought I'd take a moment to talk to you about my new project, looking at the 100 greatest African American comic book characters in the United States. This is a new book I'm working on from Rome and Littlefield. This is a project that is part of a cultural history series. And so right away, when you hear that title, the 100 greatest, that's why I just always short it to the 100. And African American, right? So these are African American characters that appeared in comic books. There are a lot of complexities around sort of the designation associated there. The greatest is somewhat arbitrary, of course. And there's also the question of what do we mean by African American? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in particular because, of course, with the Oscar just coming out, there's a huge question here. The Black Panther got several nominations, not the nominations perhaps it should have gotten. It got those, but also I'm thinking like there should be some nominations for acting, directing, hello. But of course it got a lot of technical awards, which was of course expected. But Black Panther, of course, is based on the Marvel comic book called Black Panther, who first appeared in 1966 in Fantastic Four. So in a list of the 100 greatest comic book characters, is the Black Panther going to be on there? Because if you saw that movie and you know anything about the character, you know he's not American. Well, that leads us to an important part of the sort of process for me and think about this book. Of course, I'm going to have the Black Panther on the list. Don't freak out, because this is an opportunity for me to sort of discern some questions around race and blackness and how we sort of define it in the United States. So when we say African American, in this context, we're really sort of talking about how we've defined identity in the American experience. So the complexity here is obvious. The Black Panther is a character created in 1966, which is really coming after a sort of decade of activism, more than a decade of activism, that we associate with what we call the modern civil rights movement, with figures like Martin Luther King, Fannie Lou Hamer, John Lewis, organizations like the SCLC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. These are groups that were on the street advocating for African American rights. The NAACP, of course, is also important in that struggle. Their legal struggles in the courts around segregation are very important. But also NAACP is very important in how it sort of like interacted with Hollywood. They were often advocating for better representation of people of color in movies and television and radio. And the same is true in comics. So if you read Sean Howe's great book on Marvel Comics, he talks about the pressure that Marvel was facing to provide a positive black superhero character. Not to say that Marvel didn't have black characters before. They did. They were like one of the first companies to provide sort of supporting characters who were black. Robbie Robinson, who's also on this list, and Gabe Jones and Sergeant Fury's Howling Commandos. But the first superhero character they come up with is T'Challa, the Black Panther, and he's not American. He's African. The first American superhero character, actually, that honor goes to Sam Wilson, the Falcon. But they go with the choice of an African as the first superhero because that's a hedge, right? Like it allows them to have a black character who's heroic in the pages of their number one book, with Fantastic Four, the foundation of Marvel, Silver Age comic book empire, the first comic, the first family of comics. That character in those pages is a signal to the white reader that, hey, black people can be heroes too, but he's not American, so they hedge their bets there, right? So they create a character who will go on to be, of course, a mainstay, a cornerstone of the Marvel print universe, and now, of course, is a dominant figure in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All those things are true, but it does sort of point to this bigger question of what were they trying to do when they introduced the character and what they were trying to navigate. It was transformative and revolutionary for sure, but also of the time. So even though I'm creating a list of characters that are African American, I have to have the Black Panther in there, in part because that is one of the ways that blackness was defined in popular culture and comic culture, a sort of expansive way to do that. As we go on and I continue to talk to you about this project, you'll see I have to make some decisions here. Hopefully those decisions will make sense in the long run, but I'm looking forward to sort of getting this project done and plugging away through the winter and hopefully delivering it by the time school starts. So thanks for watching, and there'll be more to come.